And now, here's the host of the Recovery Alley, Geoff Nienstedt.
This is a special report from Southwest Tow Operators Recovery Alley Livestream show.
Hello, everybody. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Recovery Alley. This is Marcelo. I'm the producer of the show. This is actually a very important show coming out to all of you, and I'm sure you've seen the ads and the posts and the shares. First of all, I want to thank you for sharing and liking and helping us spread the knowledge. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in the host, Geoff Nienstedt. We've got a great guest lineup with Ron Meyers and James Bennett to talk about some very important issues that are coming out for all tow operators across the U.S. So without further ado, here is Geoff Nienstedt.
Hey, folks, it's Geoff with Southwest Texas Recovery Alley Livestream show. Man, I tell you what, it's been a long 7 days. We're trying our best to get a grip on this rule that could apply to our industry and could be potentially bad for us. We really wish we had all the answers for you. We're going to have some stuff here in the probably next week, some stuff for you. I want to go on and bring in Ron Meyers with Pine Tree Towing and APTO of the Association in Ohio. How you doing tonight, Ron?
I'm doing great. I hope everyone else is doing great.
Yeah. Tell you what, it's been a wild ride the last few days, hasn't it?
I would say it's been a real roller coaster. We've spent countless hours. I know me and everyone else that's involved have spent 20 hours a day easily. My morning started at 5 a.m. and it hasn't let up. And then I feel bad because I've had some people call me, but I couldn't really grab their call, and I've had to call them back later, then tell them I got to call them back as we're navigating through this corn maze, if you will.
Well, it looks like we just had James Bennett join us. If you want to bring James in, Marcelo, please. How you doing this evening, James? I know you're a tired man. You have definitely been a warrior in this. So we want to talk about this a little bit. I guess one of the goals we're going for is we really want to have some boots on the ground in Washington that can represent us and keep us safe. So what do we got, James?
So right now, with the help of a lot of great people like Ron, obviously we've formed the coalition. We've got our certificate of formation. We've started the whole bank account process. We started our filing fees. Right now we're working on getting a donation certificate to members that want to jump on board with this. I honestly feel that if you're in the towing industry in any aspect, you need to be a part of this. I mean, this does not get any bigger than what it is. Everything that we're doing now, it's going to funnel down. So, and it's only going to go good or bad. There's no indifferent about it. So, I give my kudos and everything to Ron, Quinn, and a lot of the other people that are in this group that has headed this stuff off. But I really give a lot of kudos to the people, the small mom and pop tow companies that have jumped on, and they're like, hey, we're trying to get to that next level. And if we don't do this, there is no next level. We'll go out of business. I mean, that's literally the gravity of this situation that's going on.
Yeah, so it's everybody that's watching. We appreciate you here. If you could just like and share this feed so we can get it out to some more people. The towing industry needs to know what we're looking at. I mean, we're looking at a multi-six-figure fight. That's the bottom line. As we did today, we've got a nucleus here that's going to try to get this thing off the ground. We've already put our money together. It's like I was saying earlier, we wish we had all the answers, but until we get that the legal analysis, we don't even quite know how to interpret the rule. All we know is that it could potentially be bad for the towing industry and towing business across the United States.
Well, if
Well,
you look at it this way, the rule has legs the way that it's written right now. So the thought process, or if the question is raised, is this really that level of a magnitude to influence a whole complete change across the United States, the towing industry? 100%. With the way that it's written now, it could literally, and Ron jump in there, but it could literally change every single towing company across the state in the way that they do business, period. There's not one company that will not be affected by this.
that is correct. So I'm just going to throw a little history out there as I know it. We've been doing some of our own research. The group has done research to try to figure out who the real players are in this, where it's coming from, and how we have to get ourselves engaged and get before the people that can have an impact on this. So back in July of 23, there was a hearing on Capitol Hill, and I think it's Lena Khan, who's the chair of the Federal Trade Commission, basically testified before Congress and laid out kind of their objectives on what they wanted to do as the Federal Trade Commission, kind of laid out their plan, and what they intended to do and what they were wanting to accomplish. When you read through that, and it's several pages, 20, 30 pages, there's certain things in there that you can go down through and read. And even though they don't call us out specifically, they are saying that they're going to attack junk fees, hidden fees to protect the consumer, and that they want all the fees listed up front, and that you can't charge extra for something that is not really been interpreted yet, is not necessary or should be included in the business that you're doing. And in doing so, they put out their their business model, what they were going to do to help the consumers primarily. And on the surface, it didn't look that bad. The ruling currently out, if you would do a keyword search, there's nothing in there that says towing specifically. There was a comment period. That comment period closed, and I could be off a day or two, but I think it closed on January 8th. There was 12,000 comments that responded to the FTC's rule process, that they were opening up these rules. And then they extended it, to the best we can tell, they extended it 30 days to February 7th. On the very last day, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, with Sue Lawless as the acting administrator or chairman, I don't know her exact title. I can get it. We've been busy all day. I wanted to be a little better prepared with the names and titles, but they submitted comments, and Pete Buttigieg, who we know is, transportation, they made comments a reference predatory towing, and that predatory towing was a problem. And they felt that predatory towing would fall under the guidelines of the Federal Trade Administration. And this was something that the Federal Trade Commission can act on to institute rules that would control predatory towing in their eyes. They used the report that was done by, I think it's the ATRI. There's a big report out there. If you haven't seen it, our new group, the coalition, the National Coalition, is going to put out there this information so you have access to it, so you can actually see it, read it for yourself. And what they did was, when they responded with their comments, they literally keyed on everything that's in the testimony that was given back in July of 23. So they've green lighted the FTC to come after what they perceive as predatory towing. And some of the measures they think that can help with that could be rate caps, could be not being able to charge fees that is yet to be determined, decides is not necessary or that they're predatory in nature. They even mentioned at some point this could turn into you're writing an estimate, potentially at a wreck scene, that you have to give a written estimate to the vehicle owner or driver. And if they don't like your estimate, in theory, they could, call somebody else or request law enforcement to get someone else. So that's part of what the coalition's too, is we're going to start looking for partners right away that understand the implications this can have basically in getting the highway open.
So
causing
we keep talking about the group, we keep talking about the coalition. So what we're talking about is the National Open Commerce and Safer Highways Coalition. That is the group that we are talking about. This is not something like you would see in an association. We're not going to have members. This is for just a few things. It's for lobbying, legislation, attorneys, and leadership in the towing industry across the United States. I see you want to say something. Take that, James.
Well, I know Ron still got a little bit to point out on his point. So Ron, I've got mine written down right here. So go ahead, and I'm going to jump in at the end of yours.
No, that's fine. So the coalition purpose is to give us present, short term, is to give us a present that everyone can participate in and see how we can be involved in this rule process that's halfway over, and what other options we have. One of the big questions is how does this really affect us? And we're all somewhat speculating. So we're engaging a law firm that specializes in the rules process, the FTC. It's kind of like their wheelhouse. It's a very specialized practice of law. And we have them engaged in Washington, D.C. We did hire a federal lobbyist firm. They're helping us navigate the path and guiding us on how we're going to move forward. And the deal is, if we're not at the table, we're on the table. So we need to be at the table, and we need to know what's happening, and we need to make sure that our voice is heard. And we just need to know that. We need to have transparency. We need everybody in the towing industry to be involved. We need partners that are in the towing industry, vendors, suppliers. There's other disciplines that have an interest in this. And like I said, when we go back to opening the highways, to our knowledge, there's no one sharing the fact that when these roads are closed, it basically commerce stops. Commerce stops. The road's not open, commerce stops. We all know the deal with secondary crashes, which makes the highways more dangerous. That side of the equation is not being discussed, and no one is hearing our voice. And so when we talk like right now, this is great, but we're all singing to the choir. You guys all live this life. Most of us walk that white line at some point. The problem is the people, the decision makers that can have a huge impact on our living, on our lives, on our safety. They're not hearing our side of the story that we're aware of. And that's what we're about. We're going to make sure that they hear our story. They're going to make sure that they understand that we want to be a partner to solve the problem. Everyone knows there's a problem. And usually if you have a problem between a group of people or even two individuals, you're never going to cure that problem if somehow you don't work together. And if one person has control and says, I'm going to solve this problem for us, the other party's not going to be happy with how they solved it. And that's why it's so important we're engaged. And I think that we got a long road to go. And I think we're off on the right foot. And we're committed to make a difference. And we're committed to have a voice at the federal level that will be there not only for the industry as a whole, but for each one of us individually that rely on this industry for a livelihood. This is important stuff, and we're going to do our best to make it better for everyone. Go ahead, James.
Okay. I mean, Ron is very spot on when it comes to this. He has done a lot of background research on this, including starting the whole search with the lobbyist group and trying to get our foot in the door as a new organization on the Hill. We like to call it on the Hill. But the background to this that I wanted to jump in there and explain is when this was extended to February 8th and it was turned in at the last hour on the 7th. This is a 58-page suggestion and comment that was turned in. And prior to that, the towing industry was not mentioned in any of these rule changes or any of these tow fees / junk fees / predatory fees, whatever they want to label this is. And the comment that was turned in, just to update the viewers and stuff, is that it was very one-sided. If you haven't read it, there's going to be a bunch of links that come in that you guys would be able to read the whole thing if you're into reading a bunch of trash. No offense, but it paints every wrecker service across the United States as predatory towers. And I've said it before. I mean, you're literally a criminal when it comes to what was turned in. Outside of that, but yet diving into it, the way that the study is written, it was also written one-sided. There is no gathered facts that prove what they put out there. And the first time we did this podcast, the gentleman said that perception was reality, and that's what they were banking off of. They were banking that they could get this in the last minute, and that once they got it in and it was read out loud, that every time that the word towing was brought up, the word predatory was in front of it. So every politician that reads this views everyone watching this and every towing company across the United States as a predatory tower. We're all the bad guys. But yet there was never one attempt through this side of the fence to reach out and say, how do you feel that this part was justified? And then we could give answers as far as, well, you got to understand that metal cost has gone up, our equipment cost has gone up, the fuel cost during COVID, just across the United States as a whole, we saw highs of over 80% in certain places. I mean, just think about the insurance world and think about the health insurance world and how on regulations that come towards you as an owner of the company and the guidelines that you have to follow just with that part of it, none of that was taken in accountability.
Can I second,
yes.
James? You may be bringing it up, but I want you to bring this up. When we were talking earlier, the 58-page report tells you how to avoid predatory towing and talks all about it. How many times was the phrase predatory tower in that 58 documents?
In this 58 pages, it was 220 times even. And think about that from a strategy point. If you're trying to get your point across, and then every time somebody thinks of towing, I mean, literally their background subconsciously is going to think predatory towing. The problem with this whole in general, other than the obvious, is that it was taken into consideration by the Federal Trade Commission, knowing that this side of the industry that's being complained about had no chance to turn in its comments or give so much as a rebuttal to what was already published. The 2021 report that they used in this 58 pages was a university study, and even that university study does not publish its findings on where they got this information. It is just a collection of information. Everybody knows that we can pick and choose what information we want to fit our side of the argument by pulling it off of different internets. The reality of this is there's nobody that wants their vehicle towed in any fashion. If you're in a wreck, if somebody hit you, you hit somebody, it's a bad day. You get a DWI, it's a bad day. You're working a fatality, it's a bad day. You parked in the wrong spot knowingly, you're not happy about it. You knew the consequences, but they're trying to fight that. And they're trying to say that this is all predatory, that everything that we do is we're capitalizing off of the public's misfortune. This is farther from the truth. The majority of the companies that are out there that are doing municipality tows, there are requirements that have to be met to fulfill that contract. With those requirements comes a cost, and none of this study addresses any of this. There's huge parts in this study where a private property overlaps a police initiated tow because they're both considered non-consent, when everybody in this industry knows they're not one and the same.
No.
The same thing with consent tow. This would regulate if myself called one of y'all's companies out there, Ron, Jeff, whoever else is listening, and I told you that my car was broke down, or my truck was broke down. I'm going to take it back. Not car. My commercial vehicle was broke down. That's where this study is based on. And I get out, I give you a price. You say I'm going 50 miles. I gave you a price. I get out there. Of course, your truck and trailer is broke down. You're 35 yards into the forest and you've just plowed through somebody's trees, let alone you've cleared the bar ditch. But when you called me and it's documented that you requested a quote, they're going to open it up to interpretation on what they feel was predatory. And it's your version against their version. And if you don't have all your ducks in a row, you're going to be fighting this. And even if you have everything in a row, how much does it cost you to go defend yourself? Okay. That's how big this is. And people don't understand the gravity that this is going to follow. Once their foot's in the door, their body's in the door.
James, where are they going to have to be defending themselves? Not in district court, right?
You're not doing this in JP court. You're not doing this in a county court or district court. You're doing this on a federal level. And there is a price difference between a federal attorney and your regular LLC or your corporation attorney. So, it's just a heads up. It's always something that is going to cost you money on the back end. And then if you don't fight it now and this passes, you will fight this money on the front end.
If you win, you lose.
Correct.
We all know people. I know people that have fought.
Can I interrupt real quick? We got JB Barrett has a question here. He says a consensual tow is considered a consensual tow is considered non-consensual if the police call, even if the customer agrees and it isn't impounded. Why is that?
So I guess I could interpret this question two ways. If the police direct the tow, the majority of the time, it's a non-consent tow. If you're out on scene and you request a tow and it comes through the police department, it can be viewed both ways depending on how it's documented. But either way, if you called it in as a consensual tow and the police did it, you are still supposed to, under these rulings, okay? And again, this is the speculation part of it. If you're broke down, a police officer shows up, you told them that you wanted A&A Wrecker to come pick up your vehicle, and they called A&A Wrecker for you, and you didn't get a price or you didn't approve of a price, this could easily be turned into a predatory tow ticket, and then you've got to go dispute it back and forth.
So they're going to go after non-consent tows, consent tows, and don't think that it's not just going to be the heavy-duty industry, because if they're going to regulate the towing industry, they're going to come after light-duty also. So I know there's been some people sitting out there saying, well, it really doesn't apply to me because I don't do heavy-duty. And I think they're wrong.
So we think they're wrong too.
Right.
And to back up on some of this speculation, this legal analysis is critical so we know where we stand and know what our options are. And then the problem is, to our knowledge, there's not out there. We don't have a legal analysis nowhere. If we did, I'd love to see it. I don't think it's been done. And it's a specialized law firm that does this kind of stuff. You could literally, it's just a handful, and we don't have it. And why we don't, I can't answer. All I know is we know we need this, and we're going to get it. And that's why we've been created. That's why we're raising the funds. As we go, we have a 5-alarm fire we're dealing with now. But as we go on in the future, what we want to do is be a clearinghouse for everybody. We want to start collecting, as much data as we can. When we get state associations involved, we want to have that information. If a state association is dealing with some type of circumstance, we want to be able to help them through that process, at least give them past experiences and become a central database for information sharing. That, to me, that's crucial. That's long-term. Again, our immediate need and the immediate issue is what's happening to us right now. And we want to make sure that in the future, when that happens, we're sitting here locked and loaded to defend ourselves if it's something that's unfair. Now, don't get me wrong. And this gets a little sensitive to some people, but we have some bad actors. Every industry has. I mean, turn on the news. You have bad lawyers, bad police officers, bad doctors, bad everything out there. We're no different. The only thing is we need to be more engaged in understanding and controlling how the bad actors are dealt with. And the way to deal with them is you don't defund the police per se. You don't defund the towing industry in an effort to try to solve a perceived issue of predatory towing.
Or overregulate.
Or overregulate. So that's why we're here. We are now taking on that role as a coalition, as an additional gatekeeper, and making sure that we have representation 24/7, as an analogy, year round at the State House on the Hill, as James refers to. We are going to make sure that we don't get ambushed like this again. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Now, they have been transparent. They put out the rule process. They've said what they're going to do. And then we have the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration commenting on it, which, again, these are personal feelings that shouldn't get involved, but I thought it was kind of odd that they would comment to another agency about our industry. But the reality is they did. And I thought it somewhat not comical at all, but they're saying they got to protect the commercial motor vehicles that they represent when we're commercial motor vehicles. They've actually took sides. They've now decided that because you're in the towing industry and you have a DOT number, and this is my personal feelings, and this is why we need legal analysis. It looks to me like they've singled us out. Why?
Correct.
We're a motor carrier.
So real quick, we've had some more people jump on, and I know people have heard Ron just talk about this legal analysis. This is what we're going after right now. This legal analysis is going to tell us exactly what they're going to go for and how they are interpreting this rule. So just to bring people up to speed, and again, when we talk about the coalition, this is not going to be an association. There are no salaries. Nobody gets paid. Everybody's volunteer. They pay their travel expenses. They pay their food. They pay their fuel. This is not structured as an association. It is completely 100% volunteer.
Well, one of the reasons that this goes,
they're 10.
one of the reasons that we've moved towards the coalition is because this allows us to reach outside of our industry to other people that are a part of our industries, the first responders, the police officers, the fire departments, the guys that we work with side by side on that white line, and the guys that we train with when we're not out there on that white line, so we can do best practices and we know what each hand is doing from the other one. One of the key points that I wanted to point out on Ron's statement is that the level of what we would consider like it's a conflict for one agency to be reporting to another government agency, and it's casting out the private organizations because we're not government funded. That's the deck is stacked against us just with those conversations because they're able to have those conversations without our involvement. So our point is if we get these lobbyists, we're tuned in 24/7. We have eyes and ears on the hill, and we can see the fight coming to us. And I think that that's very fair for us to ask to be involved in any decisions that are made, because the reality of it is, and I've said this earlier today in a prior meeting that we had, and a Zoom meeting, is we're the ones that pay for those wreckers. We're the ones that pay those employees, but we're also the ones that pay for those fire trucks, those police cars, those salaries. We have the largest liability when it comes to what's on the roadway. And on top of that, it's coming way more common that our people don't make it home in a greater volume than the other part of what's attached to this industry. And that's not right. We're not compensated for it, and now they're trying to take even more away or have the ability to take more away. So it's very concerning. And you as an individual company or you as a tow operator, I mean, from the ground up, you need to be concerned because there's not one stain across this industry that this is not going to touch.
Hey, real quick, we've got a question from Paul Grist. If we can pull that up real quick. He's asking, is there a donation link yet?
Ron?
Great question. That has been a burning question for the last 3 days. So we do have banking information. We have filled the paperwork out as quickly as we can, but sometimes we're working with people that don't have the urgency that we do. So we're hoping that the click to donate button is up hopefully tomorrow, maybe Thursday, but that is a top priority at the moment. We do have some our bank open. You can mail checks, donate. You can do that by mail now, but we're looking at having a Zelle account, and we'll have a card processing. Again, that takes a little bit of approval process on the bank side to get it up and running. And then we have to do the IT part of it, which I'm no good at, so that it all gets routed to the money. One of the things we were concerned about, just so we're transparent, and we know this fight is so strong, we wanted to start collecting money immediately. We have commitments, but we wanted to actually have money literally the first of the week, Monday. And what happened is we thought about this. This is the group. And what we didn't want was because our association, other associations says, look, they can send the money to us and then we'll forward it. Well, if someone's donating money to the coalition and their receipt says they donated it to ABTO, for example, our Ohio Tow Association, you know what's going to be said. Well, how do we know they didn't keep the money? So we're not going to go there. We're going to make sure that when we're set up, that when you get your receipt, that it comes from the coalition, and that you're going to have the ability to make that a tax deductible donation. The lawyers are working on that as we speak. They've been green lighted to file what is necessary to allow us to operate in that fashion. And we're hoping that's all done by Friday. I'm telling you, just the calls, and every time we do something, we think of something else. And so we're just trying to go. Originally, when this happened, we didn't feel, the group didn't feel that we had a vehicle that could operate at the DC level. We just didn't see it there for us to immediately get engaged and immediately start having an impact and voice the concerns that the industry has. So we just didn't see that vehicle. So we felt it was imperative to create the vehicle. So Friday we started. We have a vehicle now. We got wheels and tires on it. I think we got the engine running. It doesn't have a turbocharger on it yet. May not have the prettiest wheels and tires on it, but by the time we're done, our goal is to have a pretty lean, fast machine that can act nimbly. We get back to the trade association thing, and we have a trade association in Ohio and all these other states. some of the challenges we've always found is we get hung up in bureaucracy, so to speak, or you know what I'm saying.
Bureaucracy.
We get hung up, and we've had some of that hiccup now. So we're trying to be very diligent in creating the entity that's able to react quickly, nimbly, without having to have 35 people in a meeting and get them to sign off. And then, we'll have another committee to talk about what we're going to do. And by the time we decide we're going to react, the issue's already past us. The water's under the bridge downstream and you can't affect it. We're going to have the organization that can react quickly. And I associate it to business. We want to run this like a very efficient business per se. And the fact that when you're running your business, all successful businesses, they have to react to the market quickly or you end up in trouble. And so that's part of what we're doing too. And we're getting ready to, Lord, James knows we've spent hours and hours on the phone behind the scene trying to get all the cobwebs out of the way. So when we go talk to the state associations, which is going to happen very quickly, we can have some very clear messaging and clear operation that we need them to be a part of, quite frankly.
Hey, guys, David Clark has got a question about the coalition, about the group. He's asking, who is the group leading the fight?
Currently, if I understand his question correctly, it depends how you look at it. The group that's actually going to be leading the fight for us is Shoemaker Advisors. You can find them online. But the lobbyist that is leading is actually leading a group of lobbyists in Washington, D.C. His name is Jason Myway. It's a French name spelled really funny, but that's his name. He has 15 years experience lobbying for the NRA. He's very versed in doing what we think needs to be done. So part of what we did in the initial vetting process is, I think all the people on the team and by the group, the original group is Quinn is chairman, James is first vice chair. We got Jeff Paquette. Hopefully I didn't butcher his name. He's second vice chair. We got Jordan Davis out of Ohio as our treasurer. And Ryan, I think it's McCann in Chester. It's Ryan. He's our secretary at the moment. All of us have been just nonstop and trying to get this, moving as quickly as possible. And I think we're there. We are moving and we're building up steam. That's the group of industry leaders that is in charge and going. And then Shoemaker is the consulting firm, lobbying firm that we're leaning on their expertise to guide us through this.
All right, let's knock out one more question. I've got a question from Lawrence Boer. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. She's wanting to know if Miller Industries, Jordan are going to be involved.
So the conversations are already going with Miller, Jordan, NRC. Even though NRC is in Canada, this does affect them because this will affect the price that these industry leaders in the towing equipment sell their product for, or if it gets bought. Because if they're limiting your income, everybody knows that the price of wreckers has gone straight through the roof, and it's a lot to do with the supply and demand and the supply chain. So, I want to emphasize that those conversations are being had. They are 100% engaged and they are very vocal on it. The commitment is that there will be something that's done on that level as well. And so we're trying to engage that to where it happens within this coalition. This has come really, really fast and it's grown really, really fast. So I don't want y'all to think that we're not here for the right reasons. This is every towing company, every state, and every individual tower that this affects. Just so you know, it's not for the other industries that regulate. When I say that, I mean you've got the natural gas, you've got electricity, you've got everything that you can think of that falls under regulations. This particular one is going to it's going to blanket all of them. The thing of it is we talked about the 12,000 comments that were turned in during this review process. This towing comment that was entered by the Federal Motor Carrier Administration's, whatever their acronym is, this was one of the longest comments that was put on record. So if you don't think that they're taking that part serious, it wasn't a 3-page draft. It wasn't a couple paragraphs. This was 58 pages top to bottom, including another document that was a university study. So it's not going to be cheap to fight this, especially since we're coming in at the back end of it. So just understand that.
Yeah, that document, I'm being told, was probably north of 200,000 to produce. That money didn't fall out of the sky, and there is an organized effort to deal with us and with our industry, and we need the same type of organized effort to combat what they're doing.
I like the comment there from Toby Watson. Man, that would be great that if every state jumped on board with this and every individual company got involved. And at some point, just be prepared. That's what we're working towards. We want, letters being written and turned in, and then that way when we turn in our reports and stuff like that, it doesn't look like it just came from one association or one company. This is people across the United States. It doesn't matter what your background is. As far as we're concerned, you're a tower. This is your industry. This is our livelihood just as much as it is yours. So I can't stress the importance of there's nobody above each other. You're not competing at this level with each other. You're not worried about if, the guy down the street charges $30 less or $30 more. This is a front that is going to involve every company trying to get involved in reaching that level. 200K doesn't seem like a thing if you're some, $50 million company, but trying to get wrecker services across the United States all on the same page and everybody getting along and stuff, even if it's in your city, that's a hard task to do. We're reaching out. I don't get paid one dime for this. Ron's not getting paid one dime for this. We're reaching out for this because we know 100% that if this goes through, it doesn't matter the size of your company, it doesn't matter the state that it's in, it will affect it.
Yeah, it's no doubt. I mean, it's going to affect quite a few people. I mean, it's going to have that trickle down effect because, they ask about Miller and Jordan and stuff. They've already been in contact with us because they know that this is going to trickle down to them, and then it's going to trickle down to the people that Miller and Jordan get their stuff from. It's going to the people that we get our rigging from, and the people that we buy our oil from, the stuff we maintain our trucks. We've already got a broken economy, and this isn't going to do it any good.
So there's another question in the room of who's pushing this, and so again, as Ron stated earlier, through this some background research and everything, this is being pushed the majority by the Truckers Association, the National Truckers Association, as well as there's some insurance lobbyists that's involved in it as well. These are the people that, the whole point of an insurance company is to get out with the least amount of damage to any claim that's paid out. I mean, that's their job. That's the definition of their job. And
Minimize.
What's that, Ron?
They minimize claim loss. That's their job.
That's right. And so when you take that aspect of it, and then you take the Truckers Association, which has always been pretty well formed throughout the United States. They're smaller associations, but the gravity of it is you've got two big titans that affect our industry. On top of that, you've got government more or less siding on that fact. guys, I don't want to discourage you. This isn't a winless battle. It's not by a long shot.
Not by a long shot. So
Towers are very big. Sorry, that towers are very big, and they're very passionate about what they do. And at this point, that's what we're dependent on. How passionate are you for your company? How passionate are you for your fellow tower on the road? How passionate are you for the industry as a whole? You know, everybody does the beauty pageants and they do the tow shows and they do all this stuff. This will affect all of it.
right. So part of the issue, and this is me talking personally again, and this comes back to predatory towing. None of us wants to talk about it. None of us wants to admit it. But predatory towing is something that the Trucking Association is concerned with. They believe it to be a real crisis. They want some stability. So some more background on me. The last time I testified in a case, it was for a tower, and it's all public record. We got a unanimous jury verdict for around a $56,000 tow bill. I thought the insurance company was very unreasonable in their assessment of the bill, and we won with a jury. Now the other issue is I have seen more and more 200,000 plus recovery bills. I have actually seen one $200,000 recovery bill that I was in agreement with. I mean, if you looked at the situation, the problem that we have is we don't have a voice that's helping engage the other side, so to speak, to help resolve this problem. Our entire industry is mostly made up of great people. And we need to help forge the relationship that we can solve common problems. So one of the problems we have as an industry is we're not getting paid. As a general rule, non-consensual tow on a national average is literally around 50%. We need help solving that. And the only way we're going to get help solving that is we have to engage the other people that's somewhat responsible for this or ignoring it on their end. So this new coalition, with the help of our advisor, Shoemaker, and we get this legal analysis done, we are going to start too often at every level in our industry, we're reactionary. And in fact, that's the nature of our business for a lot of times. We don't do anything until someone rolls over on the road or, drives drunk. That we're always reacting to something. We need to start being proactive. You're not going to get everything you want. You have to accept that. But we have, as a group, every state towing association, this alliance and other interested parties, which could involve, hazmat cleanup. We have a lot of volunteer fire departments around here that are currently billing for their services because they're struggling for funding. You can only have so many bingo matches a week. And so they've they have billing companies now, third-party billing companies, that every time there's an accident, they're billing the insurance company to recover their cost because they need to pay for these fire trucks.
Ron, let me interject there. It's the same thing and try to pay attention to this as you guys are going down the road and you're entering these contracts with your cities. But a lot of cities are buying their own ambulances. And the reason is because those third-party ambulance companies, here in Texas, we have a company called MedStar. The bill comes back to the city when somebody is transported. If they're transported from their home, they'll try to collect it and bill the homeowner. But if it's an accident on the highway, the cities are getting stuck with these bills, and there's a conflict that it's a non-consent, not a non-consent tow, but the person's like, well, I didn't call the ambulance. And then so the cities they're tired of it. So they're buying their own ambulances and they're billing their own bills for this service that's rendered. And I mean, I've seen it firsthand. They've got iPads in there and they're taking pictures of everything and they're having you sign off on it. So, I mean, that's the gravity of the cost that goes into all this stuff.
Hey, James, we've got another question here from JB Barrett. And we started hearing a lot of this last week. JB Barrett said all the tow companies should take 3 days off to show how it impacts, is to show how important that we are.
Well,
Can we explain why that it's a good idea? I'm sure deep down inside, a lot of people would like to say, let's just shut it down and we're going to show them. But can we touch on that?
So again, and this is the perspective of it, we can't go into this leading with emotions. Government has no interest in your emotions, though we all would like to just get fed up and say, you know what, it's not worth it. I'm going to park this truck. And at some point, your company's going to have to make that call, or you as a driver is going to have to make that call. But the reality is that our goal for the last decade has been to be considered an emergency on an emergency response level. And then on top of that is to change the image of the towing industry as a professional industry. A lot of states have adopted a lot of other states' regulations when it comes to safety gear, and it comes to wrecker qualifications, and it comes to the education process behind that. So, you know, it's a great comment to put that out there, but the reality of it is that at the end of the day, we hold ourselves to a higher standard, and if we hold ourselves to that standard, it's going to shine through when we go stand up on that hill and we're raising our voices and we're saying, look, you guys aren't seeing the full pictures. You guys don't know the cost. You guys don't know the sacrifice. And in Texas, we did one last year in Austin during our legislative, and we had a firefighter that lost his leg in an accident while working another accident. You know, we had family members that their loved ones that they had lost on that white line in the towing industry. It's a lot of sacrifice, but at the end of the day, if we want to be taken serious, then we got to take serious actions. And the only way to do that on a national level is you got to have attorneys involved. You have to have lobbyists involved, and you have to have a dialogue of communication going back and forth. So, and it has to be constant. It can't be a hit and miss. It has to be something that is transparent and it's transferred to them daily, if not, you know, conversations that happen in the back of the capitals and stuff like that. That goes a long way. We don't have that right now. And if we want to get to that next level and we want to have the dog in the fight instead of roll over, these are the steps that have to be taken. And unfortunately, these steps cost money. And it's something that every company and every driver, this isn't just exclusive to a company or a association. Anyone in the towing industry, you could send $5, you could send $10, you could send $5,000, you can send $10,000. Whatever it takes, 100% of this is going to go to protecting your livelihood in the future on a 365-day-a-year basis.
So, I mean, like you said, this document that they put out was extremely one-sided. They're not understanding that, you know, I would say somewhere, depending on where you're at geographically, 40 to 60% of these recoveries are not paid by the insurance companies, and we're left with the junk vehicles. They say that we're holding their trucks hostage when we're simply waiting to get paid. Our customer is the owner, and we get into a situation where there's an owner of the trailer, owner of the truck, and we're dealing with 3 or 4 insurance companies. That's another thing that's not a fair comment. We're not holding your truck hostage.
But you don't get paid for services rendered.
Right. Yeah, you don't leave the Walmart without paying the either the little kiosk or the lady at the checkout stand, you know.
So exactly. So Walmart, I use that analogy all the time. If everybody that went into Walmart, if half the people walked out of the store and didn't pay, for Walmart to stay in business, do you think the half that pay would have to pay more than you think they should? Absolutely. And that's what we're faced in our industry. So not only in our immediate goal is to inject ourselves as much as possible into this rule process and understand what it means. We want to, as soon as we possibly can, flip this into a positive and start working to achieve other goals that are very important to our industry that we just simply have not addressed. We've not addressed the fact that we're not getting paid. We all bitch about it to each other, but we don't have a concerted effort to take that message to the hill and says, we need help to fix this. If you help fix us getting paid, you're going to help fix this other issue that you're concerned about. There's no minimum standards out there. My gosh, if I had $1 for every conversation I've had with people about no minimum standards and the rotation nightmares that we go through, I could pay for this on my own. But at the end of the day, it hasn't happened to my knowledge, not on a large scale effort. And we want this to be a large scale, all hands on deck. Let's deal with the fire at hand. And while we're doing that, simultaneously on the sidelines, we're preparing for the next event. And that next event needs to be an event created by us. So we're not reacting to it. We're taking the event to the other players involved and asking them, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we want. Get in the game. Let's work this out. If we all get in the same room together and level heads prevail, and you don't start calling each other names, we don't start calling the trucking company names, they don't start calling us names, you would be shocked at what we could potentially accomplish, because we have a lot of the same goals. I mean, I'm a trucking company. You know what I mean? I have a transport division. Now, I bleed J hooks. I bleed chain. We started. That's what we are, and that is very important. All of us that has walked on the white line and dealt with that, there's some self-satisfaction that goes with our industry, from the owners to the drivers, of going out and helping people in need. Most of us, it's something that we enjoy doing. And I kind of relate it. It's not the same, but I kind of relate it. It's like people that are paramedics or EMTs. They have a passion to help people. Well, I think we have that same passion. I mean, I go out at 2:00 in the morning to help someone broke down. I get satisfaction in knowing that I'm helping someone that's having a really bad time, potentially the worst moment in their life. And so I don't only take it upon myself that I need to go out there and tow their car from point A to point B. I want to try to even help them through that process. They're stressed. I make suggestions on what their next step should be. Options. Is it cheaper to tow it 100 miles to your house and deal with it locally, or take it to a local body shop where you're now 100 miles away and can't go inspect or interact? That's part of what we do. And we have to be engaged in this process. We have to.
You brought up some good points. We got to stop being reactive and being proactive, as we dealt with that question. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening. James, I know when your day started. I know it's still going. Ron, we appreciate the information. If we could get the website up there again, I believe the website will be live tomorrow, and we're going to be able to start pushing some more information. So we'll be posting stuff on Southwest Tow Operators to keep everybody in the loop until we get this thing fully fluid as far as social media and a website. But again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening to what we had to say. I hope we answered a couple of questions. We'll have more answers in the coming week. So James, thank you. Ron, thank you for what you've put into this deal today. And I want everybody to be safe out there, and we'll see you again on Recovery Alley.